and welcome to Redmen Academy, where today myself and James are joined by a very special guest, a man whose career at LFC started as a youth player before rising up through the ranks into the first team. Neil Mellor had an injury-hit career but produced a few moments of magic in a red shirt, and his best performance was obviously that Champions League game against Olympiacos with a header and the lovely cushioned header to Steven Gerrard, and the rest is history. He also scored a screamer against Arsenal in a 2-1 victory as well. As a youth player, you were top scorer in Liverpool's run to the FA Cup Youth semi-final during the 2000-2001 season. We had a bit of a discussion before we came on air about this. We're not sure whether it was 8 goals in 4 games or 9 goals in 4 games, so if someone can clear that up for us, that would be great. You were also top scorer for the under-19s team and Joe Corrigan's reserves during the 2001-2002 season. You scored in total 46 goals, which was 56 including friendlies as well. Neil, you impressed a lot of people and you came through the ranks at LFC. Did you feel under pressure at any point to get numbers like this to make sure you got that squad, or was it just natural for you?
I'd have had about 200,000 followers on Twitter with their numbers, wouldn't I? Scoring all them goals. Yeah, it's changed. And the pressure, I suppose, was different because we didn't have social media, we didn't have Twitter, Instagram and all that sort of thing. And also the club TV, which you can see every game, can't we, now with the 18s, the 23s and the 19s as well when they play. So there was none of that. It was an internet report. That was it. There was no real pressure. For me, I wanted to be a professional football player. I was lucky at Liverpool where I had great coaches. I had Stevie Highway, I had Hugh McCauley, Dave Shannon, great people around, which gave me the environment and the encouragement for me to go and fulfil that opportunity. And that's what it was. So, yeah, it was great to hear those numbers, and scored loads of goals, didn't he, in the reserves and the youth team. But it was all about trying to get into the first team and trying to get those sort of numbers then.
And James, what Neil spoke about there with the whole social media element of things, we've spoke about this a couple of times this year and how damaging it can be. I'm talking in particular about Harvey Elliott and the couple of instances we've seen with him. Do you reckon it can be dangerous for these young players as they're coming through this whole, social media environment and this modern day and age with social media?
I mean, it's so new and there's no way of clubs knowing how to deal with these things. It's sort of a matter of dealing with it as it comes along, because obviously, as Neil said, it wasn't really a thing when he was breaking through. And I think obviously there needs to be the support at the club to help these lads, grow as they're grown as players. They need to grow as people as well and really mature on and off the pitch. And I think there will be support over there, as we see over the coming years now, as brand deals become more and more prominent with young players on social media and advertising. There will be, I think, more precautions taken to make sure that these players aren't doing anything that could come back and bite them later down the line.
And Neil, what do you make of this new side of things? You spoke then about being lucky that you weren't involved in that whole social media environment, but is there part of you that thinks that if you were playing today, you'd prefer that environment and it would make it easier for you to make more of a name for yourself?
I think every player is going to have a digital footprint during the career and after the career, and it's important that they engage in the right way. And obviously, the emotion side of things can take over after a game. I think one of the problems with social media can be the fact that unless you get 10 out of 10 every game, you're going to get some kind of criticism. Now, for me, one of the best advice I was given at Liverpool was Sammy Lee. He was the first team coach back under Gerard Houllier, and he pulled me in his office and he said to me, "Do you think I like you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you like me. Why wouldn't you like me? I've come through the youth system. I work hard. I show the right attitude." And he said, "Just to let you know, some people will not like you, regardless of how you want to be liked. Stop trying to get everyone to like. That's life. Some people will not like you." And I think that's sort of the message I would get across to young players now. It doesn't matter how nice you are, how well you play as a footballer. Some people will just not like you, and you have to accept that and try not to read or be affected too much by that.
Yeah, and James, we've spoke about this, and we speak about the mentality of our youngsters. With everything going on this season, we've seen some brilliant things in the Carabao Cup quarter final. We obviously played a very young team that day. We've also seen things like earlier on in the Carabao Cup with the games against Arsenal in that brilliant 5-5 draw where Curtis Jones scored the winning penalty in the penalty shootout as well. Just how impressed have you been with the mentality of our young players?
I mean, it trickles down from the top, doesn't it? And you can see that they have got this attitude where it's, never say die, keep battling for something, because ultimately, even when, they might taste defeat, if they can give a good account of themselves and they can do themselves proud, that's enough. It seems, for the senior management. It's the little things, the incremental gains that are more important, in the bigger picture. And it's, ultimately we lost against Aston Villa, but there were positives to take from that game. And we saw that a lot of the youngsters gave a very good account of themselves, and we got to see what they're really capable of in a very, very tough test.
And Neil, of course, we've not just seen it when it's under the eye of everyone in games like that Arsenal game. We've seen it in the Youth League as well. Obviously, Liverpool needed that win in their last group stage game against Salzburg. They fell 2 goals down, but came back to win that game. This is something that has become a pattern, not just for the first team, but for our youngsters as well. And it's a brilliant thing to have at the club, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's vitally important, isn't it? The fact that mentality has to be right. I think, as you mentioned there, it's come from the first team, which is really important. That we can see with the first team that the mentality has to be right, and we've seen that throughout Jurgen's regime. It seems to be getting better and better, doesn't it? I mean, you think to the near misses that we had, the Europa League, missing out as well in the Champions League final, the Premier League, and then I think when we got over the line with that Champions League success last year against Spurs, it was a big sort of belief that changed. I think we've seen that this season by winning the Premier League, and it's filtered throughout the club. The young players want to be involved with the first team. We are the best football team in the world, and as a young player at the academy, you must be thinking, I want to go and train, I want to be down at Melwood, I want to be around these great players, I want to be around Jurgen Klopp and his management staff, because I want to show how good I am, but I also want to get better as a player. So I think the mentality is key. In fact, Lee Richardson is down there, the psychologist. I worked with Lee a little bit in my career. He's only just come to Liverpool over the last 12 months, and he managed as well during his career as a player. And I remember seeing him at a point thinking, why am I not scoring a hat-trick? I'm a centre forward. And within seeing him, after a couple of weeks, I'd scored 2 hat-tricks in my career, and then went from a goal a game till the end of my career. So he really benefited me on focusing on what I needed to do on the pitch. He was a massive influence, and I'm sure he's helped a few of our first team lads out as well.
Yeah, it's just brilliant, and people underestimate the academy and the effect it has on the first team as well as the other way round, and vice versa. You look at your day when we said with Fowler, Owen, Gerrard, Carragher, players like that coming through from the academy with that mentality that they will become a first team player and a very good player. And we then had, obviously, a brief period where we weren't having many people coming through from our academy, and we didn't win trophies. We weren't winning trophies. And now we're in a period where we're back in winning ways again. We have an incredible first-team squad, and we also have incredible people coming through from our youth teams. How important do you believe that academies are for clubs in this day and age? Because we've also seen the same with Manchester City. Obviously, they've got an incredible complex there at the Etihad Stadium. They've built that academy stadium. They've got a brilliant under 18s team that's finished top of the league this season. Do you feel the academies are very, very important as well?
Yeah, I think for me, vitally important. I think for many reasons. One of them, the connection with the supporters. I think the supporters want to see local lads coming through because they can sort of see themselves in those young players. I think the fact that young players coming through can save the football club a lot of money as well. You think about Trent, it's probably worth in excess of £100 million, and probably the best right fullback in the world coming through our youth system from a very young age. But I think one of the biggest strengths that we have at the moment at Liverpool is the connection between the first team and the academy. Now, I know we're going to go to the same site, which is going to happen pretty soon, which I think is fantastic. And I know we have great history at Melwood, but I think the fact that they're going to be on the same site will benefit this relationship even more. My era under Houllier and Stevie Highway, the relationship wasn't great, so it made it harder for us young players to go down to Melwood. Really, really difficult. And even after, under Rafa and Stevie Highway, it was difficult for that era of playing. Now, with Alex Inglethorpe and Jurgen in charge, the relationship is fantastic. You can see the young players are really progressing. And of course, a few in and around the first team. We've mentioned Trent. You've also seen Nico on the fringes, young Harvey Elliott as well. So it's great to see that relationship is strong, which helps the young players.
Absolutely. And James as well, we've spoke about this on numerous occasions, haven't we, with our Alex Inglethorpe and bridging that gap between the youth team and the first team. And also the fact that when Neil Critchley went, we immediately saw Barry Luter step up, and he is now under 23s manager. How good do you think that relationship is? Because we've been lucky enough to speak to Barry Luter this year, and he told us himself, players like Curtis Jones and stuff like that, he knows himself very, very well anyway. So how brilliant is it that we can just have men that step up and already know the team and how this football club works?
It's good enough, seeing that, the players are able to see how good the club are, right, how good the club is right now and how good the first team is. But it's a different matter being able to train with those players consistently, being able to dip in and out of that first team on a daily basis and really immerse themselves in that winning culture, which is what I think Jurgen's cultivated, at a senior level. And, we're seeing that slowly start to trickle down to. So if you're a young player coming through, being able to train alongside these world-class superstars is only going to push you to improve yourself and look how you're going to be able to improve your own game so that eventually you can look to dislodge that player or force your way into the manager's thinking.
I think that's a great point, because I think Curtis Jones is a player who could quite easily have gone on loan in January. There's no doubt about that. I think there was a few clubs that were interested, but for me, I was made up he didn't go, because for his development as a player, he's been training at Melwood every day. He's been seeing what the standards are all about. He's still only a young man at 19. He's been training with Salah, Mane, Firmino, Henderson, Milner. Rather than going on loan to Middlesbrough, wherever, for him, his development has been more beneficial around the first team for me. And you can talk about loan moves, and no doubt we may touch on it with Ryan Brewster, but Curtis has really benefited from that, being around the best players in world football that will help him have longevity in his career, to see what it's all about, representing Liverpool and the standards you need and the quality.
We'll talk about that low move situation now, because we've seen on so many occasions, Neil, where these youngsters have benefited from loan moves. We talk about Harry Wilson, who has had a couple of fantastic loan moves, which has upped his value. I don't think personally he'll make it as a Liverpool player, but we've seen this season he's massively capable of being a Premier League player and a star for Premier League teams. What do you make of the loan system? Because I know you obviously went out to West Ham on loan early in your Liverpool career, and you had a couple of loans throughout as well. That loan wasn't too successful for you because you had an injury during your time there, didn't you? But how important are loans to certain players?
That was a polite way of saying I was rubbish. It's difficult. I think for me, one of the big parts of going out alone is to mature as a player, and you kind of learn in the first team environment to make your mistakes and see what it's all about, so you can come back a better player for Liverpool, hopefully. I mean, you mentioned there, one of my favourite players watching the academy over the years, Harry Wilson. What a great player. Always enjoyed watching Harry Wilson, because he'll either create a goal or he'll score a goal. He's done that since he's gone out on loan. I was actually disappointed with his second loan. I thought he was too good to go to Derby. I said, you've done it in the Championship. What are you doing going back to the Championship? You don't need to. He did the business again, and now we're seeing in the Premier League how good he is. But for my experience, it was maturing. I was 20 years old. I'm in London in a changing room with senior lads, Jermaine Defoe, Steve Lomas, Michael Carrick, David James, some real experienced boys, where the expectation is you've got to win every game. We got booed off the pitch at Upton Park at half-time, 0-0. We played brilliantly. And at half-time, the lads were looking at each other saying, how have we been booed off there? I'm a young lad thinking, I thought we'd done okay there. We ended up winning the game, but that was the expectation of first team level, and I became a better player. I didn't have a good loan. I only got 2 goals at West Ham, but I really matured and saw what it was all about. And I think that's a benefit for some of the players who go out alone. Some players don't need it. You think back to Raheem Sterling straight in the first team. Curtis Jones may well be one of those. Trent Alexander-Arnold, another one, straight into the first team. But some players like Ryan Brewster, because of the injury he sustained and how hard it is for him to break into the first team, it certainly has benefited someone like that.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, James? There was a lot of pressure going into the season on Ryan Brewster. There wasn't too much on Curtis Jones. We've spoken numerous times this season on how, actually, before the start of the season, we kind of expected Curtis Jones to go out on loan, and then after his involvements in the first half of the season, again, it was likely he was going to go out on loan in January, but he didn't on both occasions. he stayed around. He's benefited from that. Whereas Ryan Brewster was expected to be a big part of the first team. He was expected to be given chance after chance after chance and take over the role, Phil Sturridge's role that was left when he left on a free in the summer, of course. But because he was coming back from an injury, it made it incredibly hard for him. We've spoken numerous times this season about how he didn't get many games for the under-23s. He was in the travelling squad for the first team, but wasn't getting the game time he needed at that point. It's good to see him out on loan at Swansea, and he's really benefited from that, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. In an environment where he can do what he does best, which is scoring goals. I think at Liverpool, he was getting shoehorned into a role, sort of that Firmino-esque role that didn't really suit his strengths as a poacher. He isn't a false nine. He's got very good movement on and off the ball, but he's not the kind of player that's going to be dropping into the midfield. He is someone that you want in the box, making runs off the shoulder and doing exactly what we brought him to the club for. So to see him, at Swansea, scoring goals and scoring really good strikers' goals, it's brilliant to see.
He's not in a team either that are expected to get promoted. Swansea, I know they've been in the Premier League, but there's no pressure on them to be top 2, top 6. So he's at a football club where he's going to get the game time, and he's not going to be in and out like some players may be on loan. He's going to get that game time. I watched him this season and was really impressed with him. Played Preston away, and he led the line. All those things about being effective, contributing to the game. He scored a goal in the game. And it was great to see. Now, we've watched a lot of him, haven't we, at Liverpool in the 23s. And before that injury, you thought he's really going to break into the first team without a loan. Now, he was out a long time with that ankle injury, over a year. And that's why he's needed this loan move, to get the game time, to get his movements back, get his confidence back, get into those positions. He's got 6 goals. He may end up with 10 goals by the end of the season. And that is what he needs. So when he comes back for the start of pre-season, he could be that answer for when Sturridge left. He could be the next one to say, I'm coming off the bench. I want to be involved in match days going forward for Liverpool next season.
And just how hard, speaking of Brewster there, Neil, because there was so much ramped on him this season. There was so much pressure. There was obviously a lot of people that felt that he was going to fill Sturridge's boots and really live up to the hype. Just how difficult is it coming back from a long-term injury like that when you're so young?
Really difficult, yeah. Unfortunately, I've suffered a few of those injuries, and it takes a good 12, maybe 18 months to get back to where you want to be. And I think that's why a loan move is perfect for somebody like Ryan Brewster. Now, when Ryan was top scorer in that under-17 World Cup, he was the best player for England. And you've seen other players. I mean, what's Sancho worth now? He was in that same squad. So I really believe there's a player there in Ryan Brewster. I think the club think a lot of him. He was involved in and around match days, wasn't he, when he was injured? So I think the game time, the goals will do him good, and hopefully by the start of next season he may well be in and around Liverpool's first team squad, because of he'd be getting back to those levels, because it has been, how long's it been? It's been over a year, hasn't it, now, for him back?
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments what you think about Ryan Brewster. Do you think he'd benefit from a full season loan next season, or do you believe that he should be in and around the first team and following what Curtis Jones has done all season? Curtis Jones, we have to talk more about him, lads. James, first of all, the numbers he's hit this season have been phenomenal for the under-23s. He's really been a leader for them when he was given that captain's armband. But we've also seen him emulating this form when given the opportunity in the first team. As I said, he scored that important penalty against Arsenal, although I think he will have felt a bit hard done by to not start that day. He then scored that screamer against Everton in the FA Cup as well. He's been phenomenal, hasn't he? And do you feel like now is the right time for him to take over when Adam Lallana leaves in the summer?
Yeah, definitely. And he's shown that progression over the last 12, 18 months. He's a completely different player to the one we saw playing against Wolves. I think it was about 14 months ago now. And it's his, not just evolution, off the pitch, on the pitch too. He's matured. He's learned how to play a completely different role. And he's adapted his game to best suit him when he's come to break into that first team. It's good being an effective attacking midfielder, but what can you bring to that left wing role? What can you bring to that central midfield role where he might not have a direct route in attack or in midfield? So what can he do to get minutes wherever? And ultimately, the more time he has with the ball to his feet, better he's going to become. And
Neil, how impressed have you been with Curtis Jones? Because for the under-23s, he really has been Neil Critchley's main man this season. He stepped up with so many important goals. And as you say, that bridge for him to the first team has been perfect. I think when he's been given his opportunity, really taking it with both hands and showing the people what he can do. Everyone expects him to fill the void when Adam Lallana leaves. Do you feel he is ready to do that?
I think Adam Lallana's been a very good player over his career, hasn't he? And young Curtis, I think, I don't want to put too much pressure or expectation on him, but I think he's really matured by being down at Mellor, by seeing, as we mentioned, about what it is about to be a professional football player. I think at times, and he's been in trouble himself, hasn't he, on social media. I think back to when Steven Gerrard was the under-18 manager, he really had to sort of have a little quiet word and say, Curtis, you have got unbelievable talent. Don't ruin that with your attitude. And I think being down at Mellor, seeing players like Adam Lallana, Jordan Henderson, Milner, real experienced English lads have really helped him enormously. He's had great moments. He's had great moments this season. The one against Everton was a real high for the football club, wasn't it? I was there at Anfield. It was a great moment for him. And I think he really has progressed from the player we saw at the start of the season to the lad scoring a hat-trick. Was it against Sunderland under 23s this season? And the reason why I was so impressed with that performance was because Liverpool played West Ham that night in the first team. Curtis would have been desperate to have been involved. He would have been gutted to have been playing 23s. But he showed the right attitude to say, right, I'll roll my sleeves up and I'll do the business. And that is what catches the eye to say, now it's starting to drop the penny with him. And we're seeing a player. I hope he can fulfil Adam Lallana's position, of course. I think he's better high on the left, personally. I think he's a very clever ball player. And I think somebody like Robertson, who really gets forward, would suit Curtis Jones to cut inside it and link up with the attacking players. But he is capable of playing deeper as well.
Yeah, James, it's that versatility, though, as well, isn't it? Like Neil mentioned there, we know the man's got a best position, like we all do with a lot of players at Liverpool. Origi being a prime example of one who, maybe has a best position, but often gets paid out wide left as well. Jurgen Klopp loves versatility in his players at Liverpool as well. Just how important do you think it is that a youngster is versatile like we see with Curtis Jones?
I mean, we see it, with a lot of young players coming through, especially, with Keanu Hoiber, who can play right back and centre back as well. Having that versatility to your game and the ability to say, you know what, that's not my best position, but I'll play there, I'll give my all, and I'll use the skills that I've got to best help the team is absolutely invaluable. And he will just want to get minutes regardless. He probably won't care whether that's left wing, playing deeper, playing an attacking midfield role. He just wants to have the ball at his feet and play for, his boyhood club. And you can tell from the way he plays and the way he conducts himself that he's not going to let anything block his path.
We've seen quite a few times this season and has really impressed is Neco Williams, who got his Premier League debut, of course, in that big win against Crystal Palace the other night. Myself and James have praised Neco Williams all season because prior to this season, not many people knew about Neco. Certainly us ourselves didn't really. But every time we see him pull on that Liverpool shirt, he gets better and better and produces fantastic performances. It's clear to see in his performance every time he pulls on that shirt that he's got the right mentality that you need being a Liverpool player. We spoke earlier about Trent Alexander-Arnold and how brilliant it's been him coming through, and now he is up there with the best right-backs in the world. I personally believe he is the best right-back in the world. But for Neco Williams, how good is it to have someone there like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is young himself, he's the best right-back in the world, to learn from?
Yeah, he's probably thinking I've got a long time to dislodge him in the first team. I remember first coming across Neco when Steven Gerrard was in charge of the 18s. And I went down to watch training and he said, look at this kid. This kid is going to be a player. And I thought, big call to make because I think Neco was only 16 at the time. He'd had a couple of injuries along the way as well. Watched him for the 18s against United. I thought, yeah, I like him. He'll battle. He's aggressive. He's got a great attitude. And then ever since then, I've always watched his development and he's kicked on now. For me, I saw what sort of lad Neco was at the end of last season in the Youth Cup final, gone to penalties against Man City. First penalty taker, got to be a striker. You've got two strikers, you've got 30 goals this season, Glatzel and Bobby Duncan. First penalty taker, Neco Williams. I thought, fair enough, that's a big call to make. And he stepped up, no problem at all, scored the penalty. Now, that was at the back end of last season. Fast forward 12 months to the position that Neco finds himself in now. And he's very much a part of this Liverpool first team squad. You need a bit of luck along the way. And I think where Neco got a little bit of luck was before Christmas, when he played in the game against Arsenal. I'm not sure he'd have played if Keanu Hoover was available to play, because Hoover was away on that under-17 World Cup, wasn't he, for Holland? So all of a sudden, the opportunity then comes for Nico to play, and he's brilliant, absolutely superb in the game against Arsenal, gets himself an assist, really stands out with his energy, like we've seen with Trent in the first team. And then he's had a few more moments as well. And even when he came on for the first team, Premier League debut against Palace last game, he nearly scores 2 goals, nearly sets one up with that great through ball for Salah, who probably should have squared it for Minamino. So made up to see where Nico's got himself. It's going to be very hard to dislodge the best right full-back in world football. Yes, Trent can maybe play in centre mid, but Liverpool are so effective and our full-backs are so important for the way we play. So I think for Nico, keep showing the right attitude, and who knows, I think there'll be a lot of Premier League clubs that will be desperate to take him out on loan next season. And if he's not going to get the game time at Liverpool, that could be an option. But he's definitely benefited from seeing Trent and the way that he's progressed through the youth system. Attitude has been superb from Nico. It's been great to see.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it, James? We've spoke about Nico, and since that Youth Cup final, how many of those players have made it through. I think everyone's eyes that day were on Glatzel, who unfortunately picked up that injury in pre-season, and Bobby Duncan as well, who, well, we know what happened there. I think with Nico, though, as Mellor said, he's been impressive. His mentality has been outstanding, and we spoke a lot about that European Championships place in the Welsh squad. I think he's a player that we've said before may benefit from it being pushed back a year. Now, put yourself in his boots for a minute. He's at the best squad in the world at the minute, getting game time, and he'll probably get more game time in the next few weeks now that the league's wrapped up for us. But what do you make of it? If you were in his situation, would you want a loan? Would you want regular first team football? I think he'll probably know himself that there'll be Premier League clubs with their eyes on him. He's seen Tariq Lamptey get his move to Brighton and how well he did the other day. And he's a player that I admire, Tariq Lamptey. What do you think Neco Williams will do, and what do you think is best for him to do at this point in time?
I mean, the loan is obviously an attractive proposition for him, but it's about going to the right club, the team that's going to let him play with the freedom that he needs, because ultimately he is a very attacking right back, and there's no point him going to a team where he's expected to sit back, absorb pressure, and then occasionally get the odd release. He needs to be going somewhere where he can develop his game and not be shoehorned into a different role. Because he's not, I don't think he's personally that far off that Wales team. The Wales fans that I've spoken to around where I live seem to think that he has got that quality to go straight into the team. But it's the experience, the match experience in particular, that he's lacking a little bit. So it depends how often he's going to feature for the first team in the next 12 months or so, and whether he needs to think, am I close enough? Have I spoken to the staff, and what do I need to do?
Neil, what do you make of it? Do you think he's got a very good chance of making that Welsh squad for the European Championships?
Yeah, but I agree about the game time. It's difficult, isn't it, to go in as first choice right fullback if he's not getting the game time at club level. The most experienced player in the Wales squad is Chris Gunter. He's a right fullback, isn't he? He's got 90 caps, whatever that is. Now, Nico's an outstanding young player, and but it's difficult to dislodge an experienced player if you are not getting that game time. So it's a big call, but we look at it from a Liverpool point of view, and we think if anything happened to Trent, he'd be the ideal replacement. Now, if he's out on loan, we would want an option to call him back at some point, and sometimes that doesn't work out because Klein's obviously leaving the football club. Gomez can play right full back, can't he? But you would trust Nico to come in and cover Trent. Should touch wood, anything happen to Trent?
Yeah, definitely. And I said I wouldn't mention it too much, but Liverpool are Premier League champions. The league is wrapped up. There's going to be more opportunities now to see these youngsters, Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, and a player that we haven't mentioned too much of is Harvey Elliott. Now he's 3 games away, Neil, from becoming the youngest Premier League winner. How must it feel to be Harvey Elliott right now?
Just incredible. He's 17, only just turned 17. I mean, I think back to when I was 17, I was nowhere near playing the reserves, and yet he's in and around our first team. Signed him from Fulham. I thought he impressed in his first game against MK Dons. I thought he did really well when he hit the bar in a couple of chances. He's a player who is effective in the final third and can really make a difference. So I think we will see him get game time. He came on, didn't he, against Crystal Palace. I think he will get some game time between now and the end of the season. But that's credit to him, because as good as he has been, he's been down at Melwood all season, and he's shown the first team manager, the staff, I want to be a first team player. So it's clear that his attitude is right down there at Melwood to be given these sort of opportunities.
Yeah, an excellent player, and I think every Liverpool supporter knows that he could be a world-class talent for the future of this club. Another player that is worth trying, and I think we'll start to see more of now, James, is Adam Lewis. We're often talking about this left side of defence and someone who can play back up to Robertson, and Adam Lewis has had a difficult season in terms of injuries, but he could really do that.
I mean, yeah, we saw under Steven Gerrard how good of a player that we thought he could be, and he has clearly got that talent and he's got that versatility. You know, we've seen over the last day or so that he's considering a move away from the club on loan, and I think ultimately that'd be a very good move for him. He needs to be getting those minutes. He's a little bit older than a few of the lads that have broken through already, and he hasn't got much football under his belt, even at youth level. So going out, getting some minutes, and then coming back in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, and saying, I'm a much more complete player now, and I'm ready to, make a real claim for that first team spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, what other youngsters do you have your eye on that may not make it into this first team in the next few weeks and months? I'm talking players like Leighton Clarkson. We've seen at times this season, such as in the game against Shrewsbury. I know the first team staff are very, very impressed with this lad, and I am too. You've got Leighton Stewart as well, who has had an excellent season with the under-18s. I personally am a massive fan of Billy Cometio as well. Which players do you have your eyes on?
Yeah, those two. Clarkson, really impressed with him, clever player. Leighton Stewart, I interviewed him for the academy, and I love the fact that he said he's angry, he's upset if he doesn't score. Love that attitude, and he scores a lot of goals. But also a player we mentioned a little bit earlier on, Glatzel. Now he's been out injured, and he is a very, very clever football player. And I'd like to see him. I hope he goes out on loan, get some game time next season. Again, we talk about Bruce. I think Glatzel will benefit from that. He is a player that I really enjoyed watching at the academy. There's a lot of talented players there, and it's been great to watch them come through. But they're just some of the ones that certainly have caught my eye.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, Neil, and James, as always, of course. Yeah, it's been brilliant. So thank you very much, and we shall see you very soon. Make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for many more interviews on the way. Cheers again, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.